Welcome back to Comic Krackle. I'm your host Kirby, and you're watching Motherbox News, your trusted source from the source. Sorry about that introduction. It looks like I just got shot out of a boom tube to cover The New Gods by Ram V Evan Cagle. We start off in the beginning of issue 2 with a 4-page sequence by Jesse Lonergan. This serves as our introduction for the new antagonist, Karok Ator. I hope I pronounced that right. Other names would include Death Speaker, Dean, and Curseborn. Now looking into it just a little bit further, if you watched my interview with Ram V, click there, he talks about a new creation that he was bouncing back and forth with Evan Cagle, talking about a Death Speaker that speaks to Motherboxes. Now is Karok our potential character that he was alluding to earlier? The introduction showcases his progression, not only being a leader, but seen as a scavenger. Now within his narration, he says that he's going after those that are Sourceborn and alluding to the New Gods pantheon. He says that he doesn't see himself more than just a scavenger, but anyone who gets in his way is as good as dead. Specifically saying, the moment this task was set to him, they were, each and every one of them, gods, devils, heroes and villains, as good as dead after all. There's two things that I really want to look at in this introduction. First off, did you see the 2-page spread by Jesse Lonergan? Oh my god! Not only does it invoke so much Kirby and momentum, but also the panel-to-panel storytelling and the way that the layout of the pages are, it blew my mind. The other aspect that I wanted to highlight was the narration by Hyman. He says, much as the source manifests in life and in death, as creation, imagination, the darkness that it shattered, though undetectable by my studies, must manifest through similar means. A theoretical antithesis, uncreation, the absence of idea, not in opposition to life, but in opposition to existence. The way that the fourth world has been portrayed is life versus anti-life. But the reason that this narration is so important is because it shows the dichotomy between existence and not. I think that Ram V is trying to portray the ideas within the fourth world of our imaginations being too closed off. While we do have the inception of the fourth world being life versus anti-life, this struggle has blinded us to the fact that there are other dangers in this multiverse. And like Ram V stated previously, now that Darkseid is dead, who's coming out of the shadows to try to take his throne? So I use this opportunity to reach out to Ram V and ask him about the inspiration for including the scenes for Hyman, as well as describing the source as he does, and he said,
honestly speaking, I don't know that there is any one inspiration to how Hyman, the Prometheus Codex, and the source are written. I'm fascinated by the idea of information and knowledge that is unknowable beyond a threshold, the knowledge of gods or the science of gods, necessarily incomprehensible to humans. So both Hyman and the source are written in ways that feel a little bit abstract. The New Gods' knowledge and inquiries comfortable with ambiguity. Real science, especially as it tends towards the fringes, as you are touching upon areas still unknown to us, the science tends to become more ambiguous, more comfortable with contradictions or abstractions. And then there is the treatment of language as translation. Hyman acts essentially as both inquirer and translator, his words necessarily falling short of true knowledge. So his descriptions in the Prometheus Codex are grasping at ideas bigger than he can capture. And so in that translation lies an understanding that this is something bigger, grander than we as humans, as readers, could possibly comprehend. Add to that the format in which it is represented, and it should feel like a neo-mythic text, which felt apt for something like the New Gods.
After the introduction, we then cut over to Highfather that's witnessing this new incoming prophecy, seeing the death of both New Genesis and Apokolips. The way that Evan Cagle renders these pages, one, brilliant, but two, also evokes the first page of New Gods by Jack Kirby, showcasing the death of the old gods. While witnessing the prophecy, Highfather walks out to see his kingdom crumbling under his feet, but then it's shown that he's just having a dream. As Highfather is being consoled from this nightmare, we see Lightray look at the tower that he knows that Highfather is, hearing his screaming and looking longingly. Given the setup from issue 1 and then this page, I think that Light Ray is going to join Orion in the coming issues. I don't have any insight on that, I'm just guessing. We then cut to Scott Free, masking up in his costume and writing a goodbye letter to Barda. He says within this letter that he has to go off and help this child because he's honor bound to. He feels awful for leaving Olivia and Barda behind, but he has to help where he can and hopefully help somebody else escape death. As Scott Free is saying his goodbyes to Olivia, we also showcase in the background Orion going through the days and what he's actively doing within the story while we're not showing him as the ride-along character. It practically shows that Orion is set on this course and now Scott Free is on a ticking clock to try to find this new god. I also want to make a note to Evan Cagle that I did see that you updated the light bike. I love the simplicity and showing it almost like a motorcycle. That's so rad. Anyways, back to the story. As Scott is leaving the home, he's then immediately confronted by Barda. I absolutely love this scene too because she basically just picks him up by the scruff of his neck and says, "Stop being an idiot." She tells Scott that he's not alone and she's going to be joining in his quest. This also brings up the question, where's Olivia going to go? Because I would love it if there was like a shoulder baby strap that one of them was wearing at all times. But I guess we'll see that in future issues. These 2 pages are a perfect example of explaining the dynamic between Scott and Barda. I think that both of their responses are indicative of their upbringing. Because Scott was raised on Apokolips, he's more avoidant to actual confrontation and has these escapist tendencies, hence why he's a super escape artist. On the other hand, we have Barda, who's abrasive and will meet the confrontation head on. If you've watched any of my New Gods coverage, you would know that Jack Kirby based Big Barda off of his wife, Roz Kirby. And also there is some kind of indication that he mirrored a lot of his own traits within Scott Free. So I love that the creative team is continuing this on, but not being overly dramatic about it. As we move along in the story, we catch up with the new prophesized new god and his parents. It's shown that him displaying his new god abilities within the pages of issue 1, if you missed that, click up there, takes a lot out of him. And now he's completely bedridden and has a fever. We're then given the explanation that these people are not his biological parents, but actually adopted the child. They say that they went to a temple and found a baby that was crawling around outside and they decided to adopt him. Now that kind of reminds me of another person that was adopted in similar circumstances that also appeared in the issues that the New Gods were introduced in. Now I wonder what Superman has to say about this. It's then shown that a paramilitary group that's led by Maxwell Lord is staking out the house that this child is. We then cut to Maxwell Lord with somebody in a cowboy hat casted in shadow, and then it's revealed that this mystery character working alongside Maxwell Lord is Serifan. For the people that are fans of the Fourth World, they went crazy. But if you don't know who Serifan is, it's okay. Now if we're going to talk about Serifan, let's go ahead and cut over to our lore correspondent, Kirby. Thanks, Kirby. Hi, I'm your lore correspondent, Kirby. If we talk about Serifan, we also have to talk about the Forever People. You see, basically, the Forever People was like a cosmic Teen Titans. They're all citizens of New Genesis, basically coming to Earth to fight anti-life. They had multiple run-ins with Darkseid, as well as Gordon Godfrey. And I'm not gonna lie, the Forever People didn't have a lot of definition within Jack Kirby's first run. Basically, they were all archetypes of what they would need for a team. You have the leader, the girl, the bulk, the smart one, and the cowboy? I don't know. But this change for Serifan does make a lot of sense. When I was reading the Forever People for the first time, I knew he could be a bad guy because he gave acid to a child. Don't believe me? Look at this panel. Bad guy behavior right there. But Serifan's inclusion and his alliance to anti-life also asks some questions of us. Where are the Forever People? What happened leading up to these events in this series? Also, where's Gordon Godfrey? I was talking to a friend of mine about a modernization of Gordon Godfrey. The presence of televangelists that are preaching words of doom and hatred is not very active in the modern era. So the question is, how do you modernize Gordon Godfrey? And I have two possible answers. Potentially, and this is probably on the nose, but he could be a politician working to serve anti-life there on Earth. I did make a note that on Earth, there's not a lot of apocalyptian forces going after the new god. So utilizing Gordon Godfrey in a capacity to spread anti-life on Earth as a politician could be poignant in the modern day. But like I said, it's probably on the nose. So another idea that we had come up with is a military general. This would leave Gordon Godfrey to be able to serve under Maxwell Lord, expanding the anti-life equation on Earth and going after this child, while also being great political commentary about how the military serves to spread anti-life through whatever means possible. Anyway, that's it for my diatribe. Back to you, Kirby. Now, if we go back to the story, it's explained why Maxwell Lord is working for the anti-life equation. It's shown that Metron came to him and presented him with the vision of the prophecy. So anybody saying, oh, I don't like that Maxwell Lord is doing this, that, and the other, you can be quiet because he's influenced by anti-life. Now, this did provide me with a question about why Maxwell Lord is grouped into the main New Gods run. So I asked Ram V about his inspiration of including Maxwell Lord within the series, and he said,
Maxwell Lord really started out as more of a plot decision. This New God story was always pitched as a grand unification, Fourth World and the Earthbound DCU colliding. I think much as you want your protagonist to be relatable in terms of motivation and emotion, you equally want your antagonist to feel grounded and human. Yes, we've got space gods and scavengers, but I wanted a more earthly character who had his own motivations and interests in finding this prophesied child. Maxwell Lord then felt like a logical thread to pull on. His past has encounters with the new gods, a computer powered by Metron's logic, and motivations from his JLI days where he was interacting with Scot-Free. All of that felt like fertile ground to till. Then, from a personal standpoint, I like the idea of human ambition being a challenge to divinity itself, and what those kinds of motivations can do to people who have said ambitions, but also to others who are innocent and caught in their way.
In the last scene of the issue, we then show Metron on Apokolips talking to Darkseid. It's shown that the forces of Darkseid are all fighting for power because as Darkseid died, he left a power vacuum on Apokolips. When Metron is speaking with Darkseid, he kind of has this arrogance about telling him of the prophecy. It's very much in keeping with the original inception of the New Gods to be a continuation of Norse mythology by way of having Metron be playing both sides, almost like a Loki figure. He tells Darkseid of this incoming force that's going to be dangerous not only for New Genesis, but Apokolips as well. This is a continuation of a running theme for a Ragnarok for the Fourth World. That's going to be enough out of me for this report. Don't forget to pick up The New Gods, Issue 3, February 19th. And as always, trust the source. Whoa!